Welcome back to the Holistic Skin Detective. I started this podcast because I became increasingly concerned that in the rush to clear our skin, we might be overlooking vital information, and in doing so, potentially mistreating both our skin and ourselves. The truth is, our skin is not separate from our body. It reflects the internal state of our health, physically, emotionally, and environmentally. And if we don't pause to understand what it's telling us, we risk missing the real opportunity for healing. That's why I created the KDC framework, a tool developed from over 20 years of clinical observation, designed to help you slow down and understand your skin through the lens of root cause and internal communication. KDC helps you identify your unique breakout pattern and then educates you on the deeper imbalances driving it, so you can stop treating symptoms and start understanding what your body is asking for. If you haven't already, I recommend you start with the KDC quiz. It's on my website and the link is in the show notes. It's free and will give you the insight into what your skin is trying to say and where to begin with your healing. Today, we are continuing our conversation with Sophia Lightfoot. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. Sophia is a weight loss coach and a hypnotherapist, and together we explore how emotions shape our relationship to food and how becoming aware of those drivers is often the turning point in any healing journey. Because whether it's food or skin, the body is always communicating, and it's up to us to learn how to listen. So let's begin. Welcome to the Holistic Skin Detective. My name is Christina and I am a holistic skin health practitioner with 20 years experience in helping people find natural solutions to their skin woes. And I'm the creator of the KDC Skin Typing Framework. If you're here, you're probably curious about how to tackle hormonal acne from a truly holistic angle. In each episode, we'll explore the deeper connections between your skin, your hormones, and your environment, because healthy skin is so much more than just the surface. So before we dive into today's topic, if you haven't yet discovered your own KDC skin type, you can find a link in the show notes to learn more. And remember, while we explore holistic approaches here, it's always a good idea to have your skin first checked by a qualified medical professional. Now let's get into the heart of today's episode.
So the secret codes of overeating are in our subconscious mind. Firstly, addictive overeating. So this is where we develop addiction to, could be caffeine, but predominantly it's sugar. This can come about because in our early childhood, perhaps we weren't allowed certain foods. So I know all the other kids in school were allowed to buy lollies. I was forbidden from spending my pocket money on lollies. I'd buy twisties. Now, unbeknownst to me, twisties probably just as sweet as lollies anyway. It's all refined carbohydrates. Any refined carbohydrates, as we now know, is just sugar in our bloodstream. So we're looking at all the high glycemic index foods, high GI foods. So addictive eating often occurs because in our childhood we were denied certain foods. A lot of my clients, their parents were following certain dietary restrictions and they felt different to the other kids. So when we become adults, we go like, oh, now I can eat what I want of these foods. And we inadvertently become addicted to that sugar in that biochemical situation happening in our bloodstream. The next one is emotional overeating. Now, this can also be linked to the addictive. This is, like you were saying, the celebrations. For many of us, food is associated with a sense of belonging, celebration. Perhaps we had a special relative that always baked cookies for us. We associate love and connection and feeling good and being part of a family with food. How that plays out in our adult lives is we've had a bad day at work, or we've had a challenging day at work, let's say. We've had an argument with our spouse. We've got teenage children, and it's a real struggle. And we find ourselves with some self-doubt. Inadvertently, we go to food because that food is associated with feeling good, belonging, relaxing, happy memories. When we want to feel loved, for me, my grandmother used to go and buy fresh tip-top bread, sliced bread. It came in wax paper. And we would sit in the sunshine of a morning on a picnic blanket in the garden, and she would give me buttered, fresh bread. I'd always have the crust. And it's one of my really happy childhood memories. It's which food I binged on a lot as an adult. Bread. I'm in an unhappy relationship. What am I doing every night? Eating half a loaf of bread and butter.
Yum.
And I don't know why. I can't stop. I just can't seem to stop. I just want more and more and more. And part of me is going like, stop. And then that little voice goes, I don't care. I must have. Until I literally feel sick and cannot eat anymore. And then it's finally I can stop. And no understanding. But when I went back to that memory again in hypnosis, I went, I associate that with being loved, quality time connected with someone. And here I am in a marriage where I feel really disconnected, and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to resolve this situation. But the bread reminded me of that feeling loved, feeling safe, being in a beautiful relationship. Once I understood that, once we understand, that's what it is. Well, I'm not a 4-year-old child anymore. I'm an adult. Clearly, I'm not getting my needs met. What can I do about it? Who can I see? Where can I get help? As an adult, I have a lot more choices available to me. I'm no longer that child. So that's just one of the ways emotionally. I had a client who was addicted to Coca-Cola. Her doctor, she was in her 40s, her doctor said to her, you'll be dead in 10 years. Your liver's going. She goes, I don't drink alcohol. She said, but for years I've been drinking Coca-Cola for breakfast. She goes, and I can drink 2 litres of Coca-Cola every day. She said, I've been able to cut back, but I just can't cut it out. And I went, well, let's see what your mind will tell us about this. So we did a hypnosis regression, and it was very interesting because she had had a very traumatic childhood. But we didn't go back to any traumatic scenes. We went back to happy family memories. 3 memories where as a child, as a teen, she was actually had a sense of belonging and fun and enjoyment. She was spending time with her family, and in each of those scenes, she was drinking Coca-Cola. So her mind had linked Coca-Cola to these really happy memories, the few happy memories she actually had in her childhood, because her childhood had been a very difficult one. And when she understood that, and now she could see, well, Coca-Cola is actually killing me. It's toxic in my body. We could reprogram the mind to go like, I no longer want Coca-Cola. I can have those memories. They're in my heart forever. I don't need the Coca-Cola, because she was actually in a beautiful marriage with a very supporting spouse, had beautiful children, a lovely circle of friends. And that I check in with her quite regularly. It's been like over 2 years now. And she recently said, I have started drinking Coca-Cola again. But she said, in a whole year, I may drink what I used to drink in 1 week previously. She said, so, I no longer feel out of control about it. And, it's no longer an issue for me. And just that having that understanding and awareness, that's what it was. Well, I don't need that Coke to feel good anymore. I've got all these other good things in my life. So that's emotional overeating. Oftentimes, it also has that element of addiction. It's that sugar hit that we get accustomed to. Habitual overeating is really just based on the patterns we experience. Finish what's on your plate is a really great one. This was one of the most difficult things I found to break. I was not allowed to throw away food as a child. And that was partly because my parents and grandparents had literally starved, during the war and post-war. So throwing away food was seen as such a bad thing. You must eat what's on your plate. Don't ever waste food. But what that did was disconnect me from my own appetite. And so, again, it was understanding like I'm no longer in that time. I'm very fortunate to live at a time and in a place where there's an abundance of food. It's perfectly okay for me to scrape food off my plate. I have a compost bin. I don't like throwing food in the bins. I put it in the compost. Small meals satisfy me. So I simply don't put those big meals on the plate anymore. And it's that self-talk, I feel powerful when I leave a little food behind. I'm no longer a child. I'm an adult now. That's not me anymore. I'm not that child anymore. I'm a mature adult. I'm a sophisticated, mature adult woman. I can choose what I want to eat. I can choose how much I want to eat. And I choose quantities that satisfy me and feel good for me. I want to feel proud of myself for the choices I make. So, we change that self-talk, and that changes the way we feel around food. Another code of overeating is angry eating. So this is a minor one, but it's, if we weren't taught as a child how to acknowledge and express the full range of emotions. Now, so often we are given the information that there's good and bad emotions, there's positive and negative emotions. Now, I see this very differently. And it can be, in sort of new age thinking. A lot of new age people, you've got to keep your vibe high, but really there's just comfortable and uncomfortable emotions. Now, our mind naturally moves us away from pain towards pleasure, which is the other reason why we'll grab food instead of feeling the discomfort of the emotion. So one thing I really work with my clients to implement is our ability to experience uncomfortable emotions, discomfort, including the discomfort of seeing the chocolate donut in front of us and saying, I'm choosing not to eat that because my health is important to me. Now, for a moment, that feels uncomfortable. And so often we'll go like, oh, that doesn't feel comfortable. I'm going to grab that food. Instead of like, oh, this feels really uncomfortable. I'm just going to let that feeling be there. I'm just going to witness that feeling. When we witness those uncomfortable emotions, I call it emotional alchemy.
I just had a big aha moment with that. Sorry, I'm just sort of jumping in there. So just for clarify, because I think that's like coming back to the why and identifying what it is that we want, we've first got to find that space, right? Because we act just so instinctively. And when we're busy, we don't we're not watching our actions. We're just in the moment and we're running with the actions and we're just kind of dealing with what's coming at us. We really busy lives, right? But I love what you term positive toxicity, because just in allowing oneself to sit in that discomfort instead of believing that we should be happy and we should be in a state of grace and we should be in a state of gratitude, when we allow ourselves to receive that discomfort, that kind of is the waking up point within ourselves, really, isn't it? Because that forces us to stop and look. And if we just go, oh, okay, even just remembering it and coming back to it maybe later on in the day when there's a quiet space. Yeah, say more about that, because I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, and I was very guilty of being toxically positive.
Yeah, right.
So even when I was really in a state of depression, and most people wouldn't have known that I was contemplating exiting, life at the times that I was, because I was the happy person. I was the ray of sunshine. That's what people say. Oh, you're like a ray of sunshine. You always have a smile. Always see the silver lining. And, I grew up going, you should be grateful. That's what I heard the message over and over, both in my religious upbringing, but even now, positive psychology, gratitude, 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 gratitude. And of course, yes, it's great to feel gratitude, but you can't force it. And to be honest, when we allow ourselves to feel all the uncomfortable emotions, we naturally come back to feeling good.
Yeah, it's a way.
When we repress those uncomfortable emotions, that we have to force ourselves to be grateful, force ourselves to be happy, I believe our natural state is one of relative contentment. Just like, I like how Abraham Hicks describes it, we're naturally like a cork floating on the water. But sometimes our focus goes to things that make us feel uncomfortable, and we naturally go underwater, but when we repress those emotions, it's like we've got weights and we're struggling to swim up. I want to get up, but we're holding on to all this weight. When we allow ourselves to just feel that weight, I was speaking with a client a couple of days ago. I said, it's like when we jump into a pool and we just naturally sink. We just allow ourselves to sink, and then if we don't fight it, we don't resist it, we don't resist those uncomfortable emotions, we just allow ourselves to feel. And when I say allow ourselves to feel, I don't mean then saying like, what's my feeling? Let's give it a label. Let's give it a name. It's not saying like, one of my clients said, well, I feel the emotion. I ask myself, why am I feeling that? I'm like, stop. I said, now you've gone back into your head. Where do you feel the emotion? In your body. I didn't actually know this till I trained as a breastfeeding counsellor in my 30s. And it was like, I'm like, what? You feel your emotions in your body?
Yeah.
Get out of here. Like, what? And all through my 20s, people had said to me, you're so much in your head. And I'm like, okay, I have no idea what they're talking about. I didn't actually know the difference between a thought and a feeling. It's taken me a really long time to understand emotions are just sensations we feel in our body. Now, we will label them, which gets us back into our mind. That has a purpose if we want to communicate an emotion to someone, but the first step is just feeling the emotion. And we may choose to communicate an emotion using a set of communication when we say, like, we're talking to someone and we say, like, look, I feel frustrated when you constantly turn up late to our meetings because it puts my whole schedule behind. And I also teach my clients how to use a set of communication to communicate with people. But the first step is just feeling it. We don't have to label it. What am I feeling? And it's like just being aware. Tension in my tummy. Oh, it feels like I think I'm going to vomit. I feel like I'm going to vomit. Tension in my shoulders, or my head feels like it's being pressed in, or I've got a lump in my throat. My throat feels like it's getting closed off, or tingles all over. It doesn't have to be uncomfortable. Tuning in, and I invite clients to just practice from time to time. Whenever you remember, take a deep breath, the deepest breath you've taken all day, like really fill up your lungs. Completely empty your lungs and just tune in. Notice the physical sensations you're feeling in your body. Now, if you practice this throughout the day, then when you are feeling discomfort, it becomes a lot easier.
I just want to kind of come back to a few points there. The first one was that image of, bubbling around in the water, and then sometimes we sink. There's when we, like, I know for myself, when I'm in a body of water and I am allowing myself to sink, there is this peace that comes over us, right? And we're just allowing the water to hold us. It's more about that we have waves, we're human, and we have these waves of emotions, and just allowing them to come and go then also allows us to be able to receive another person's emotions as well. When we're kind of holding this thought pattern that we should be happy all the time, and we then have this expectation on other people to be happy all the time as well. So then when someone's not feeling happy, and as you say, expressing these emotions, you're running late and that really does put me out for my day, and I feel put out by it. You're able to receive that as well. I think that's really important to kind of highlight. There's this, that you start to be able to have this more of a reciprocal relationship with other people as well, not just yourself.
When we allow ourselves to fully feel, then we also create the space for others to fully feel. Yeah. And like jumping into the pool, we naturally sink, but if we don't fight it, there comes a point where we naturally just gently rise up again.
It's just how the world works. It's how
nature works. Our natural state is with buoyancy.
Yeah.
But yes, we will go up and down when we don't fight our emotions, when we don't judge them, good, bad, positive, negative. Literally just notice, well, that feels comfortable, pleasurable, and that doesn't. But what's interesting, and a client said it to me recently, she goes, but it doesn't feel uncomfortable for long.
No.
We actually get used to feeling the discomfort, and we can almost kind of masochistically get a little bit off on the discomfort. It's like, oh, this feels uncomfortable. In the same way that people enjoy roller coasters and, the adrenaline of jumping off the side of a cliff or out of a plane or, driving a fast car. it's not necessarily a comfortable feeling, but it's a feeling we, as humans, as spirits living in a human body, we love to feel. We've come into this experience to experience feeling. And I say to my clients, our feelings like all the keys on a piano keyboard. Can you imagine if we only played like 5 keys up here? How boring would that piece of music be? We need that dum, 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 as well as the high keys. And all together, we have this beautiful piano concerto of life.
Yeah.
So
there's a safety, I think, in that, in allowing that discomfort. I keep thinking about Deepak Chopra, who says, even pain, like physical pain, comes in waves, and that wave, it doesn't last longer than 30 seconds. And since I heard that, if I'm getting cramps or I've really hurt myself, I kind of just allow it rather than holding on to that resistance. If we just allow that pain just to wash through us, because I know that it's only going to last 30 seconds, and then there's a safety because it's not going to go on forever. You know that as you come through it, then you naturally come up.
Very interesting thing. And even with physical pain, like a couple of years ago, I had my appendix out, and I was very dehydrated. The medical staff were trying to get cannula in, and at one stage I looked at the nurse and went, that's more painful than my appendix right now. It was like, she goes, well, I'm having trouble finding your vein. I'm like, okay. I said, can you get someone else? She goes, yeah, I think I will. I'm like, okay. The more I relaxed and stopped resisting it, the less painful it was. Mm. Yes, it was very uncomfortable, but as soon as we resist the discomfort, we heighten the discomfort.
Yes.
And the same is with emotional discomfort. Mm. In fact, I've relabeled fear as just discomfort. And I had a really sort of big aha moment a few months ago when I realised there were so many things that I said I was afraid of. We're afraid of success. We're afraid of failure. We're afraid of rejection. We're, afraid of getting it wrong. Mm-hmm. Am I really afraid, or is it just very uncomfortable? I felt very uncomfortable going on camera for a long time. Again, linked back to childhood, because I had a lot of medical examinations, procedures. There was always someone looking at me with bright lights, and my mind had linked that to cameras. And I noticed I'd go on camera and I'd be shaking. I was like, okay, I'm just allowing myself to feel this uncomfortable feeling. And the more I allowed it, the less I felt it, until it literally just went away. It just doesn't happen anymore. Yeah. When I stopped resisting it, it's when I stopped saying, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Mm-hmm. So one thing I say is never should on yourself.
No, I call it the attack of the shoulds as well. I love that. Never should on yourself. Yeah.
Never should on yourself.
Yeah.
Immediately we're judging. Now, the other beautiful thing about allowing ourselves to feel the discomfort, I was taught by various counsellors, you've got to express it, beat up the pillow with a tennis racket, throw some crockery. I had a lot of rage in my 20s and 30s. I would slam. I didn't even know what I was angry about. It was just these repressed emotions. And I'd find, if I tried to stop overeating, and started tapping into emotions, it felt like I was being overwhelmed with emotion. There were so many repressed emotions coming up. And I just get so angry and I felt out of control. When I learned to just feel that discomfort, you don't actually have to express anything. We just need to witness it. This was a game changer, and the emotion would shift very quickly. A lot of this came through acceptance and commitment therapy.
Yes, yeah.
To Russ Harris. So one of my psychologists worked a lot with acceptance and commitment therapy, but it was after I really got uncovered those secret codes through rapid transformational therapy that I could really implement the acceptance commitment therapy even more.
Oh, yeah.
And when I began practicing, because people would often say, when you feel angry, count to 10. Take a big breath, count to 10. Well, I'd do that, and that my anger just it was like 10, 9, 8. I just get angrier. And, then it was just like panic, bread, eat some bread. Because I didn't want to be this hideous, angry woman, this freak. I didn't know why I was angry. When I uncovered the reasons why, I was angry because I'd suppressed myself so much. There was my creative spirit and my teenage self, my inner. So I do a lot of inner child, inner teen healing with my clients. My inner teen was pissed. She was furious. She was furious because she felt like no one could see her, no one could validate her, no one really supported her to do the things that brought her the most joy in life. And so even as an adult, I had this really angry teen that are just acting out all the time when I could actually reparent her and go like, hey, I'm here for you and it's safe for you to feel and it's okay for you to feel all those feelings. When we tune into those feelings as physical sensations, we don't label them because we can feel a multitude. Just like if you're playing a piano, you don't play one note at a time. There's chords. And just like that, our feelings, we can simultaneously feel happy, sad, angry, frustrated, joyful, because every thought we think has an emotional response in our body. We think the thought and immediately our body responds, and that's the emotion. When I stopped labeling it and just started focusing like, okay, just allow myself to feel, those thoughts just dissipated. It feels like, we've got thick fog and then the sun comes out and then suddenly the fog just lifts. You go like, wow, where did the fog go? When I first began this practice of just allowing myself to feel the physical sensation, focusing on it, and that would just dissipate like fog in the sunshine. I literally would start looking out the room going like, where did it go? But I stopped telling this story because we tell this story. They did this to me. I'm angry because, no, we get out of our head, out of the story and just focus on the physical sensation and it shifts.
Yeah. Okay. Working with people, their bodies, there's that sense of being heard and we look for other people to hear us. But what you're saying is we're hearing ourselves. And I think that's why sometimes working on people's bodies is so therapeutic, because there is this person that is there for you and holding space for you. And you can talk to them, or, my clients will share things that they wouldn't normally share with other people. And then they walk out feeling great. But then they walk out into the world and the world doesn't hear them, so then they come back. I think there's what you're expressing is more teaching people how to listen to themselves, and that's of value.
Yeah, and with our conscious mind choosing the conversation we're having with ourselves.
Yeah.
So I teach my clients catch the thought. Thoughts are like salmon upstream, and we're like the bear trying to catch the salmon. They're slippery, they're really quick. Yeah. Particularly those self-sabotaging, undermining thoughts. But when we set the intention, let's catch that thought, my clients will come back and go like, oh my gosh, I caught myself thinking this, and immediately I redirected my mind. Mm. When we become the loving parent, our mind doesn't know the difference between someone else saying it or ourselves saying it. So when we start telling ourselves all the things we wanted to hear from our parents, our teachers, from our lovers, from our children, our mind doesn't know the difference, and it changes the way we consistently feel. Our thoughts drive our feelings drive our actions, and our actions give us our results. The thoughts we repeatedly think form our beliefs, the feelings we repeatedly feel form our attitude, and the actions we repeatedly take are our habits. So to change our habits, we need to begin at the level of thought. And first, it's just catching that thought. Well, what's the thought that's actually undermining me? Now, I'll bring the example of coffee. I love coffee,
Yes, please.
I love coffee. And I have chosen to continue drinking it right now because it doesn't seem to be having any detrimental effect on me whatsoever. Now, I also understand from the work of Dr. Mark Hyman, who's my go-to guy for anything nutritional. He's a functional medicine doctor. Coffee responds differently in different bodies. So, there is no one size fits all. And I know that you know that from your work too. So if a client chooses to stop drinking coffee, one, it's why do you want to stop drinking coffee? Do you want to play with me with this? Is coffee something you want to cut back on or stop drinking altogether?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would be great to finish up that way, because then it kind of, now that we've explained everything, it would be good to sort of, for someone that's sitting there with a piece of paper now looking to change their New Year's resolution.
I'll just backtrack a moment very quickly, because I was talking about angry eating.
Yeah.
That's another subsection of emotional eating. It's usually crunchy food. So that jaw moving that way. If I'm ever going for crunchy food like corn, popcorn, or Doritos, the tortillas, that sort of crunchy stuff, nuts, celery, crunchy apples, beef jerky, something like that. If I seem to be going for that sort of food, I think like, what emotion am I not allowing myself to feel? Or is there a tricky conversation I need to have with someone? In which case we bring in that assertive communication. I'm feeling angry when you are leaving all your dirty dishes in the kitchen every day because I don't want to be the one spending time there. I've got other things I want to do too. Can we have a talk about this and find a solution? And it could be as simple as that. And bingo, I'm no longer overeating crunchy foods. Another code of overeating is misinformed eating. So here in Australia, we had a food pyramid. 9 to 11 serves of carbohydrates was the foundation. So I teach a very simple alternative: prioritise protein, good fats, and plenty of plants. Nothing is off limits, but if we prioritise that and eating small meals that satisfy us, then we tend to feel satisfied and then not go for the highly processed foods that spike our blood sugar and contribute to chronic disease, particularly later in life. And the final one is protective overeating.
Right.
Now, oftentimes, for many of my clients, very sadly, they have been sexually molested or abused in their childhood. But even if we haven't, particularly during our teens as women, we may not have had the support to fully validate all our feelings and emotions about growing from this childhood body into this adult body. We may have also been on the receiving end of comments from family members, from peers, from siblings, even our teachers, like inappropriate comments that made us feel very self-conscious and uncomfortable about our sexuality. Our family and or community may have also had very rigid ideas about sexuality, which made us feel uncomfortable being women in a female body. And so, as well as that, in particular industries, say like dance, not so much now, but depending on the community, you're expected to have a body of a certain shape. And there's also sports and things like that. So if your body isn't that shape, suddenly you feel uncomfortable about your body. And so we may overeat to make ourselves less attractive, to have that extra layer of physical padding and protection. So for me, I have no recollection of any sexual abuse whatsoever. And it's never, ever come up in my hypnosis sessions as a client. However, I recall feeling very uncomfortable growing boobs. I remember bleeding excessively, getting blood on my clothing at school. I remember comments being made about body parts that made me extremely self-conscious, and I just wanted to hide my body. I didn't feel comfortable. As well as that, my parents were strict Roman Catholics, and if you had sex before marriage, you were going to hell forever and burning in the eternal hellfire. So there was a lot of fear around being a sexual female. And when men, even just giving compliments as an adult, complimenting me on my figure, I felt very uncomfortable. So having extra weight, I felt more comfortable and I attracted less attention to myself. So I always carried a few extra kilos and I could never completely get to the size and shape I wanted. Clearly not anymore. I just posted a photo of myself in public social media in my underwear and felt completely comfortable. And I've received lots of really very polite comments from a variety of men, and I've learned how to feel comfortable about that and go like, they're not mean, they're not rude, they're not inappropriate. So I just literally just write back, thank you, because if I see a good-looking man that I think's, rather attractive, I'll say like, oh, he looks good, and I figured too, if other women complimented me and said those words, I'd feel perfectly comfortable. So allowing myself to actually receive compliments about my body, I've decided that's okay. But at first it did feel uncomfortable. So, so that's all the codes, the secret codes of overeating. And when we unravel those and have that awareness and understanding, we can make better choices, because we no longer have this backseat driver telling us where to go. We can go like, you're a backseat driver, stay there, shut up. I'm driving this Ferrari. Yeah. This is where I want to go. So coffee.
Yes.
Tell me about your relationship with coffee. So what does coffee mean to you when you drink that coffee in the morning?
I worked out that there is a social aspect to it, but I can still go down to a cafe and order something completely different. For me, it's not about the high that coffee brings or the energy. I don't feel tired. So I'm not drinking coffee for that. I think it's more about the milkiness of it. I need to stop drinking it because my skin doesn't like it, and I get quite flushed and red and see that it's creating inflammation in my body, and my digestive system doesn't feel comfortable if I have too much. So I know that it's not good for me, and I need to reduce the levels of inflammation at the moment.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. I love your answer. So what I can see happening there is our mind, like I said, drives us towards pleasure and away from pain. But what we do is we link pleasure and pain to the same thing.
Right.
So coffee, you've told me of all the pain points, all the reasons why you don't want to drink it, but I see your face light up when you talk about the milking.
I love it.
So there's a lot of pleasure. And the pleasure will always win. So at the moment, you're associating pain with giving it up as well. And because there's such pleasure, and you know, I can see it in your face. Now, what we need to do then is really focus on the pain. And we need to associate coffee with pain. So I quit sugar for about 6 months. And I quit sugar for 6 months because I was told by a health practitioner that I just had an overgrowth of yeast throughout my whole digestive system. And one way to help get my digestive tract into a better shape was to eliminate sugar. Now, prior to that, the thought of eliminating sugar, I was one of those people who goes like, never. But I was really fed up, literally, with not feeling well. And I went, no, this is worth it. So now suddenly I'm associating pleasure with quitting sugar. And very quickly, by choosing to say no to sugar and pretty much having a little mini party inside myself every time I chose to say no thanks, I started associating pleasure with saying no. And I started feeling good. And I was noticing how good I was feeling in my body. So more and more, now, Marlene's by repetition, I was associating pleasure with no sugar. And to this day, that has stuck. Like I said, nothing is off limits, nothing is completely restricted in my diet. But a few days ago, I had a day where I chose to have some more sugar. And immediately my moods I started getting like irritable. And I'm like, oh, that's right. Yes, no, I don't like this. So it's like today it's like very easy to go to I had a coffee at the cafe where my daughter works. So I often stop in there and say hello to all the locals and do my morning journaling there. And there's, you know, lovely little chocolate brownies, gluten-free, and gingerbread people that are also gluten-free. And I wasn't even tempted because I'm like, oh, God, I don't want to be crabby like I was when I had sugar the other day. It's immediately I just go irritable and crabby and like, no, thank you. So I associate pain with that. So the trick is really getting clear and associating phenomenal pleasure with saying no to coffee. It's honestly that simple. And, you know, what's another nice milky drink that you might enjoy in the place of coffee?
What's coming to my mind as you're talking, actually, I think you've sort of nailed it on the head through your intuitive way of reading people, is saying no. Saying no, especially over the last 2 months, has been something that I'm aware I have to say more of. And as I say no more, I've realised that that in itself is really quite layered, because when you say no to certain things, you're actually saying yes to other things. And you're also saying no to certain thoughts as well. So that's part of my journey. So, yeah.
An example conversation that I might have, and I won't use, well, I could use coffee. I'll use coffee as if I'm you, if that's okay. Is that cool?
Of course.
So if I was you and I chose to say no to coffee, one is I'd get really clear on what I value. What do I value? I value my skin. I value feeling really good in my digestion. I value feeling really good about myself. I value what's important to me is taking good care of myself. Number one, that's important to me. And so then I'd see the coffee and it's like the conversation I might have with myself is, I know that coffee tastes great. It smells good too. I have so many good memories with that coffee. I don't like the way my body feels. I don't like the flushed cheeks. I don't like the yucky digestion. And so I'm choosing to say no. I'm choosing to drink something different this morning.
I'm going to have to break up with coffee.
And you're allowed to grieve it too. It's feeling that discomfort and saying, oh, I feel a heaviness in my heart. Oh, I might cry. I feel tears. I feel that's okay. Being a loving parent to ourselves and saying like, I've got you. I know this is hard for you. And I'm so proud of you making this choice for yourself. Look at you making this good choice. And internally, I mean, no one would know it. I'm just there at the cafe ordering a drink. But internally, we have this little conversation with ourselves because our mind learns by repetition. Our mind goes, the next time it gets a little easier, it gets a little easier. Next thing you're rocking up the coffee like, at the cafe, I used to drink coffee. But when I think of that fresh bread, oh, God, I used to love that fresh bread. I'm choosing not to eat that anymore because I really value my health and I know that just screws up my health. But gee, I have good memories. When I see cakes and even gelati, and gelati was something that, I will still eat some gelati, but now it's less and less because I don't like the way I feel afterwards.
Yeah.
And so a little conversation with myself will be, I love gelati. I love the look of it. I do love the look of it. And, we can still enjoy all these foods with all our other senses. I love the look of it. I quite like the taste of it. I love the smell of it. I love the texture. I don't like the way I feel in my body after I've eaten it, so I'm choosing not to have any. But I can still enjoy all those other things. When it comes to all the Christmassy foods, I was looking at all the Christmassy foods in the supermarket the other day, and I'm like, I'm giving myself full permission to enjoy the sight, the sound, the smell, but I'm choosing not to eat it because I don't like the way it feels in my body. And I love me and I want to look after my body. When that becomes a habitual conversation and we start feeling really good about ourselves. I remember in the early days, I went out to eat and I chose a salad and the salad arrived and I really programmed the conversation without even consciously thinking about it. I was sat there saying to myself, oh, look at you choosing the salad. And then I left some, oh, look at you leaving food on the plate. Who would have thought? And suddenly I'm flooded with all these, I call it follow the dopamine trail. We flood ourselves with these good feelings about the choices we're making. And next time it comes to make that choice, our mind remember how good it felt to say no last time? Do it again, do it again, do it again. And so we associate tremendous pleasure with what's important to us. And before you know it, you will just have I have such fond memories of when I used to drink coffee, but I choose not to do that anymore. And it feels so good. And that's how we change our habits.
Sophia, I just love talking to you. No topic is off the chat. You will go talk about the hard stuff, but you're also probably one of the most empowered people I've come across in a very long time because you're allowing these feelings to come through. And so now it's almost poetry the way that you speak. And thank you. Tell us about your book. When is it coming out? And congratulations. That's exciting.
Thank you. So early next year. I don't have a specific date as yet. My book's called Escape from Yo-Yo Dieting, Your Journey to Enoughness. And it's really a guidebook for anyone who wants to change their relationship with food and eating, with their body and themselves. And within that book, I've really put all the tools that have helped me create a significant long-term change in my relationship with food and eating, my body and myself. It's all the tools that my clients use. And part of the reason why I'm writing it is, one, I want to be able to give it to all my clients so I can say, just read chapter 4 this week. It's there. It's all there. And they can use it. But also people who may not have the opportunity to actually work with me in person, they've got the book, they've got the resources, and then My intention then is to always be available on social media, so people can ask me questions. I can still address those questions through lives, to really support other people who are on that journey as well, and to allow them to get the results quicker than 35 years, because that was a really long journey. If I come back in another lifetime, I'd like to find that book to remind myself of all the things I learned. So it doesn't take me as long next time. And I can go like, oh, that's right. It's really is the book I wish I had 20 years ago. So that's the book, Escape from Yo-Yo Dieting, at sophiamarielightfoot.com.
If this conversation stirred something within you, maybe a quiet moment of recognition or a quiet, this makes sense now, I want you to know this is where the deeper healing begins. So often we're quick to reach for those surface fixes when our skin flares up, but true lasting change starts when we begin to understand the internal imbalances at play and how our skin is simply reflecting what the body is carrying. That's the reason I created the KDC framework. It's a diagnostic and educational tool that helps you identify your unique acne pattern and understand what's driving it. Whether that's hormonal shifts, nervous system overload, digestive imbalances, or emotional stress. This isn't a gimmick or a trend. It's a foundation that I've built up from over 2 decades of clinical experience. And it's here to help you slow down, learn to read your skin as an intelligent messenger, and take grounded, supportive action. Start by taking the KDC quiz. It's completely free, and it's the first step in connecting the dots between your skin, your health, and the life you're living. You'll find the quiz, programs, and all supporting resources on my website, which is linked in the show notes. And as always, I'm so glad you're here, because when we start listening, everything changes.